Okay, good evening. We're going to continue our learning in Hishtapchut HaNefesh. We're here on the 17th day of February, 29th of Shvat, Erev Rosh Chodesh, Adar, Yom Kippur Katan. Time to get B'simcha and increase our simcha all the time. This learning tonight, we do B'kashut L'kol HaTzadikim HaMitim Shebereinu L'kol HaTzadikim HaMitim Shochne Afar Kedoshim Asher B'Tzem Afar L'Beinu Kadosh Tzadik Yisod L'Lam Nachal L'Bein L'Kol Chochma Rebbe Nachman Fegen Nachman Yuman Chasav Yagen L'Kol Yisrael Amen. May it be a will Hashem that Zchut the learning as they should send the Chush Lema to Chaya Bat Be'at Til Rachel Bat Sarah to Enya
Rata
Itaratza and Tzvi Yisrael Tzvi Ben Esther and all Cholev Am Yisrael, and also those who are in prison, Jonathan Pollard, Shalom Rabashkin, anybody in prison spiritually, physically, emotionally. Maybe will Hashem that should take us out and bring the Geula Shlema B'Mhera. Okay, so we're learning in Hishtapchut HaNefesh. We did Lamed Vav last time, Lamed Vav Tzadikim. We're up to Lamed Zayin 37. And he says like this. Amar le'inyan hischazkus b'hizbodus v'sicha beinu v'vein kono. So Rebbe Nachman said, in the subject of being encouraged, of strengthening oneself in the service of the Hibodedut, again, just for anybody who might be seeing this for the first time, Hibodedut literally means to make oneself alone, and it means to make oneself alone with Hashem. And the main thing about that is to have a conversation and to talk your life to Hashem. Afilu im oivrim yami v'shanim harbeh v'nidmeh lo shelo pa'al adayin b'sichaso v'diburav klum, even if it passes years and years, days and years, a lot of them, and it seems to him that he didn't accomplish anything with his conversations and his words with Hashem. Afal pichen al yipol mizeh klal ki be'emes bevadai hadiburim osim roshim. He says, nevertheless, don't fall away from doing Hibodedut. Don't fall away from continuing to talk to Hashem, because in truth, you absolutely, certainly have made an impression with your words. Al derech mashal, and he gives an analogy. Kamo mayim hayordim ala evan, like when water drips down on a stone. Afa pisha nidme she'en mayim koach l'neged evan hakasher ve'en nikar roshem mayim be'evan. So one drop, two drops, you look at the water, it's dripping on the stone, and it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Even the person, you can watch it for several hours. You can watch it for a couple of days, and you can't really see that it's doing anything. It's not the impression that it's making on the stone, isn't? You can't recognize it. Aval pichen. But when the water drips on the stone for a long, sustained period of time, it makes a hole in the stone. Everybody's seen this. So therefore, similarly, even if a person's heart is stone, even if you've tried to talk and you can't, and you don't feel anything, and you've tried so many times and you still don't feel anything, and you can't tell that you've made any headway in your spiritual growth through your prayer. Nevertheless, if you just keep it up over the long period, over the long haul of the days and the years, your continued speaking words out to Hashem will make an impression, an indentation, open up make a hole in the stone that's covering your heart. Just like the stones that are made smooth, that are worn away through water, as we was mentioning. And that's a really important piece of advice, because everybody who's really made the effort to do Hibodedut has gone through periods of time where they just don't see a change. Certainly, maybe they see, and maybe even if they've seen changes in some aspects, there could be places where they don't see any change at all. And somebody who's been asking for kaviyut and consistency in their learning, or somebody's been asking for the ability to not be stuck in the ego, or the ability to not be stuck in the physical pursuing physical urges. Those are the types of things that it can go for a long time and it seems like nothing's happening. But if a person will continue to be strong with this, then certainly what will happen is at a certain point you'll start seeing that something's shifting. Have you experienced that at all a little bit in watching over time that you've done something Buddha? It seems maybe that nothing's happening, but then all of a sudden you kind of realize, you know what, something's different. I mean, it seems like maybe I'm noticing, like I'm remembering to pay attention to Hashem more often, and things like that. That's the type of thing that will certainly come. So in this case, it's good to always try to turn our learning into tefillah. So what would be a tefillah about in this subject? What would be a tefillah? What would be a prayer that would say about this idea that we just learned about? That sometimes our prayers don't appear like they're making an influence, but then they do if we just keep it up.
You daven Hashem that you want your prayers to be meaningful.
Okay.
Whether they're answered immediately or not.
I was thinking in this case. I mean, that's certainly important. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not coming to say no. Chas. That's all, the praying. Please Hashem, let my prayer be meaningful. Let my prayer be important to make an impression. But also, please Hashem, if for whatever reason my prayer doesn't get answered in a revealed way yet, please strengthen me, that I continue to pray no matter what, that I always continue to pray. Please give me the confidence and the belief in the power of prayer, so that I will always continue to talk to you and never turn away from talking to you, even if I didn't see the results of my prayer right away. Something like that. Lamed Chet. Amar Behodu she'omrim be'erev Shabbos kodem mincha yicholim l'shaber libo ma'od lefoish kol sichas sham ki sham medaber me'inyan tzaros HaNefesh u'me'inyan tza'akal kol devar. So if you ever looked at Tehillim 107, it's it starts at Hodu, pray, thank Hashem, acknowledge Hashem, and there was a special segula, a special spiritual power that the Baal Shem Tov Hakadosh said that it's a very special power to say this psalm before Mincha on Erev Shabbos. He says in this psalm you can break your heart open very much and find everything about your life in this particular psalm, because in this psalm, in this Tehillah, it speaks about the pains of the soul and the aspect of crying out to Hashem from those pains and being relieved, and having the pains being removed and relieved through this crying out. So this, please Hashem, please let me, may I be zocha to always say Psalm 107 with tremendous kavanah, intent, and connection to the words, and to be able to cry out to from inside the words and from inside the holy words of King David. Next, Lamed Chet 38. Good, we're moving right along. Any questions or thoughts or comments on that at all? Okay, so let's go on. Lamed Chet 39. Tov ma'od la'adam sheyeh lo cheder miyuchad lo levado la'asok sham b'avodas Hashem. It's a really good thing for a person if he has his own private room, that's his private space, to spend the time there serving Hashem. And especially it's good for the service of his bodedus and having your conversation about your life with Hashem, to have your own private room. That's a really good thing to do. If you can do it, please do. That's very, very special. Even there's times people have sectioned off places in their house or in the attic or someplace they build themselves a little private room, a little small space that's always available for their private service. It's their own special prayer and holy service room. Shafilo hayeshiva ba'atzma kishiyoshvin b'cheder miyuchad, because he said, the Rebbe Nachman said, even going to this room and sitting there, that a person goes to this private room in this private place and sits down there just to be alone with Hashem, that itself is very good. Gam ze tov ma'od. Afilu mi she'enu zocher shelo cheder miyuchad. Af al pi chen gam hu yechol limtso kama tachbulos lahanhag hazo shel hizbodulus ledaber beno levein kono. But if you don't have such a thing, so it's a very nice idea, Moshe. You said have your own private room. But look, I got a family, I got 6 kids, I got a little house. So what am I going to do? So he says that, yeah, even that, it's true. Not in every situation are you going to find that it's possible to make your own room. But he says even if you don't have such a thing, that you don't have your own room, nevertheless you can find a number of different plans and strategies how to make it take your hitbodedut, how to take your seclusion time and speak out your heart, speak out your life to Hashem. Ki adamar ki tachas talis. Hu gam ken cheder miuchad. You can take your prayer shawl, your talis, or any type of large garment or scarf or poncho and put it over your head. And he says that itself, it's a private room. So you take your talis, you put it over your head, go sit in a place, in the Beit Midrash, in the synagogue, even in your own house, you can sit and you put it, and the kids will think, shh, Abba's sleeping, Yibba's sleeping, if she wears a big poncho, and but you're sitting there under the talis, and you're whispering to Hashem, and you're doing silent screams, and nobody's going to see, nobody's seeing that you're going under the talis, and so it's very private. You can accomplish tremendous amounts with your own private room sitting under your talis, and the same idea, even just the idea that you put the talis over your head and you're sitting there and desiring to talk to Hashem is also very, very good. So you can do that. You can take your talis. What's that? When he puts his talis over his eyes and puts over his face, he can say whatever he wants. And we also mentioned that David Melech, his main time for saying this type of personal prayer was when he would lie down in bed and he was covering himself with the sheet. So the same idea, you cover yourself with the sheet, nobody sees you, you're whispering to Hashem, you're crying out, doing silent screams, which we're going to, in the next teaching, we're going to mention this. And there's many different possibilities, many different ways that you can do different things that will make your Hisbodedus a personal and private experience, even if you don't have a private room. I have some ideas in mind, but I'll let anybody want to pipe in with some ideas that you have, how to create a create a private space for Hisbodedus, even if you're not in a private place. How you can create a private space within a non-private place. So we just said one was place put a talis over your head. Anything else? Any other ideas?
You said go under the covers.
Yeah, that's one. What else? You're sitting there, and you take your handy dandy that almost everybody has these days, and just go like that. And then you're talking to Hashem, and you see if you're here and you're standing outside and you're just talking, Hashem, please, I want to come close to you and I want to conquer my titles. You're sitting there talking, and people are looking at you like, what are you doing? So you feel a little uncomfortable. But you take your phone and suddenly you look normal, like you look like you're having a conversation. Hashem, please, and you can imagine like I'm talking to Hashem on the telephone. It is my private. It's your private telephone line to Hashem. So there's another good possibility of how to do Hisbodedut. Any other thoughts about how to get around if you don't have a personal private space where you can do Hisbodedut? Anything? Anybody else have any ideas on? You can close your eyes. Pretend look like you're just zoning out, and you're maybe just barely moving your lips with a little. Right? So that's also people. That's a good way to. Sometimes that's what I'll do on the bus. I'll sit in the bus, sit back, close my eyes, and just give a few breaths, get in touch with the Hashem, and it's a great way to spend a bus ride. Okay, anything else? That's 39. And a good prayer for this is, Hashem, may it be your will that you should please let me either have Bizocha to have a private room that I can make into my own sacred service space, or may it be your will, Hashem, that you should give me good, holy, true advice how to find a private space within places that are not so private. May it be will that you should give me the ability to find such privacy so that I feel free and safe to speak my heart to you. Okay. Anything else? Any other comments or thoughts on that? Okay, let's go on. Here's this chapter 40, Mem, is especially. I've always found this an especially powerful piece of advice. We've mentioned it before. He says, "Yicholim litzok l'Hashem Yisbarach bekol demama daka b'tza'aka gedola ma'od." You can scream out, you can cry out to Hashem with a still, small voice, with a great, very powerful scream. V'shum adam lo shishma klal. Nobody hears a thing. Ki eno mitzi shum kol lachutz. He doesn't actually make a voice that can be heard outside. Rak hu mitzayer hetev hatza'aka b'machshava. But you imagine it. And so, like what I found very helpful is I imagine a scream that is so powerful. I'm screaming to Hashem and imagining like you see how the picture of radio waves coming out of the antenna. I'm sure you've seen like animation of what imagine what radio waves look like coming out. So imagine that coming out of your head, radio waves, and going infinitely far. And then hear and imagine in your mind as it goes farther, it gets louder and louder and louder. Imagine a voice so loud that it shakes the very foundations of the earth. Imagine screaming with your yearning. Take the yearning for coming close. Take your yearning, whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish in your prayer. Put that into your mind and imagine a scream. You can take any emotion. Try. It's a very good, powerful body-mind or mind-body exercise. Is to see if I can use all the different emotions in serving Hashem. So for instance, you might want to, so the first emotion people go through, which is, Rebbe Nachman teaches, Ein yesh ba'olam klal. There's no such thing as despair. But that doesn't mean that sometimes, even though I may know this idea that there's no despair, but sometimes it can be that a person can be full of feelings of hopelessness, even though their mind says, I'm sure there must be hope, but inside they're feeling hopeless. And that can get in the way. So it's a very good, important thing to get in touch. And how do you do? So you might say or think, Hashem, it's possible that sometimes I'm feeling hopeless and I don't even know it. And then you put that word into the silent scream, hopeless. And what will happen is if it's going on inside of you, you'll actually feel it. It will kick. You'll notice I'm feeling something when I scream hopeless, hopeless. Or you can even say, sometimes people feel hopeless in the world. And I don't and sometimes some people are so hopeless, and in your mind, hopeless, and that will actually register, and you'll feel it. So that's one. And then if you do find that, the way to talk about it is Hashem, look at that. It seems to me I feel like there's some sort of hopelessness going on inside of me, and that's not me. I believe in you, and I believe there's always hope. But Hashem, somewhere inside of me, maybe there's a little wounded part that's not so sure. So please, forgive me for even having that happen, and please help me so that I should repair it and have the rectification of the broken faith and trust that this is a manifestation of. 2, you can make it klali. Hashem, if I'm feeling this hopelessness, then that means because we're all part of the Shekhinah, we're all part of the feminine aspect of Hashem's presence. So if I'm feeling a pain, I can rest assured that the Shekhinah is feeling that. So I can cry out and have the silent scream about hopelessness, about Hashem, please, maybe the Shekhinah is causing hopelessness, feeling hopeless and feeling that you're not with her. Please, Hashem, rachem, and heal Am Yisrael, heal the Shekhinah. And you can do that as a silent scream. Then the next one, what about anger? So if there's anger going on, you can silent scream, anger, I am so angry. It says in Pirkei Avos, La'olam yargiz yetzer tov al yetzer hara. So that's the only place we're allowed to get angry. You're allowed to be angry at your yetzer hara. You're allowed, Hashem, I am so angry at this yetzer hara that overcomes me and stops me from being who I want to be to serve you. Or we're allowed to hate evil. You can scream hatred, I hate evil. Ah! And that scream helps, not only is it powerful for prayer, but it actually moves the vital energy that otherwise gets stuck inside of us, and it's a very helpful thing to do. And it's one of the things that I work with my clients and helps them become adept at releasing more and more of their own tension and being less and less dependent on me as a facilitator or any other facilitator. to move these vital energy. All the emotions are actually made of or aspects of vital energy, and so the vital energy needs to move in order to be healthy. So that's anger. What about fear? What about fear? A person who has fear is scream, Hashem, I'm afraid. There's so many things that I feel afraid of, even though my head, I believe in you, but I'm not trusting you. And so Hashem, I'm begging you, please heal this broken aspect of trust, broken trust that's going on. I feel so afraid, please. And then you can turn it, Hashem, the only fear I want to have is fear that's awe. I'm begging you, please turn this fallen fear, and any fear that we experience that's in this world is called a fallen fear. So please, Hashem, raise this up, this fear. I'm so afraid. I want to have awe in you and the awe in your power. And that's the type of prayer that would raise up fear. What about shame? So, in general, feeling shame frequently is not so healthy. It can lead to depression also. Any of these things too much, but a little bit of silent screaming of what's shame. Hashem, I'm ashamed that I'm not the person I want to be. And even if you are a really successful and refined person, you need to, in order to not get old, in order to stay young and continue to grow, you need to know that you're still not perfect. And the way to pray and use your silent scream and use these emotions is to let yourself feel ashamed for a short period of time, as long as, and this is, we talked about this before, this is only as long as you know that this is because we're serving Hashem with the heart, with these different emotions, and it's not because we really are bad or anything, God forbid. It's just that we're here to do this type of work, to use our hearts, to use the prayer, to come to higher and higher levels. So in order to do that, we have to break our hearts, and the breaking of the heart means I'm going to feel the emotion. That's the painful emotion, and the shame is the feeling of the yearning. I want so much to be more refined, a better child before you, Hashem, a better son, a better daughter, and those prayers are very powerful. So you can silently scream that, and so you can silently scream gratitude. I'm so grateful. So you can scream great gratitude, you can scream love, you can scream joy. Children scream with excitement. So these silent screams is people misunderstand and are very, very quick to get caught in the idea that scream is about people only scream if they're in horrible pain. Okay, people do automatically scream in their terrible pain. Lo, we should be may Hashem spare us. But this crying out that we do prayer. The more this book, as we've talked about it a little before, Hishtapchut HaNefesh is like a prayer manual. It's like the prayer of how to make your prayer more effective and more powerful. And one of the ways is by giving it power. And the scream, the louder your voice is, the more powerful your prayer. And that includes then not only actual volume, but imagined volume, which is an amazing thing, and it shows you the power that there is power in our mind, in our thought. You might think, what am I accomplishing? I'm imagining a scream. No, you're actually adding tremendous power to your prayer. Now, one more thing I'll mention about this is my experience has been is that if I don't periodically go out and find a place where I can actually do a real audible scream, my silent scream will not be as powerful an experience for me. But if I've spent some time with real screaming, then I can remember the feeling that I had when I was really screaming out to Hashem, and put that into the silent scream, and then it will also usually end up breaking my heart, and I'll have true, heartfelt, broken-hearted prayer before Hashem with that. Those are a few ideas, and we can pray, Hashem, please. May it be your will that I should learn how to use the power of the silent scream before you in the proper way to be able to amplify my prayers and make my prayers more pleasing before you. Okay, good. That's chapter 40. Any other thoughts or questions, ideas about that? Okay, then we'll continue with 41. And 41 Min Aleph says like this: Amar Hallo. So he says, like the shopkeepers, what do? you go to your local makolit, you go to your local grocery store, and the owner knows you, and most of the residents of the neighborhood have like an account, and he lets people take things on time. That you pay afterwards. You take your bag of milk and your carton of milk and your box of cereal and your block of cheese, and then you come back and bring him the 30 shekels or the $10 or whatever it is the next time. So he says that's the way of the shopkeeper, to give out on credit. Umadulo yamar hadam eze kapit lechtilim o lilmod o lasos shar mitzvos. He says the same can be said for serving Hashem. Maybe you did everything you had to do. You davened your 3 davenings. You did your Chokli Yisrael. You did Parshas the Shavua. You learned the Daf Yomi. You did everything you have to do. So he says. So you find yourself now. You're waiting online. You're sitting on the bus, or you're waiting for somebody to show up, and you have a little time. What can you do? Take a look at Tehillim. Say a few Tehillim. You know what's going to happen? You're giving Hashem credit. You're giving him these Tehillim on credit. Like, Hashem, I'm giving you this extra service, and Hashem will take it and store it and it'll be available. It comes back to you, it pays you back at the time you need. Because there comes a time when we need extra spiritual help. Why don't you make it just like the storekeeper who gives credit? You can give credit to Hashem, as it were. Say some extra to him, and Hashem has an account with you, and He's going to pay you back when you need it. So you can come to Hashem. Remember that Tehillim? Remember that extra stuff I did? I could really use the spiritual blessing, the spiritual power of that right now. It's a very good idea to maybe your will, Hashem, that I should feel and believe with absolute certainty, and trust with absolute faith, and trust that the power of my words is a bankable commodity, is a value, and that I can always use my time to build up my credit, to build up credits, to build up my my account with you. Okay, good. Anything else? Any other questions? Any other ideas on that? It's good. Should we do another one? How's everybody feeling? Yeah, go on. Okay. Number 42, chapter 42, Mem Beis. Amar afilu ima adam kamoshu. He said, even if the person is the lowest of the low, and God forbid, the most grossly physical person you can imagine, so involved in hedonistic pleasures, and no matter what, he says, no matter what person, don't think that you can't pray to God. So I've had people tell me, well, I don't keep Shabbos, I don't keep this, I'm not keeping the Torah, I'm not religious, how can I pray to God? No, he said, no matter what, you can always pray. That's the beautiful thing. Prayer is such an amazing thing because it's so simple and it's available to everybody, to the point it seems so too easy, it seems too available. How can prayer be the best thing in the world, the most powerful service, when it's such an easy thing to do, and that actually trips people up? The evil inclination will use that against the person. That it's not such a big deal. It's too easy. I'm going to sit and talk to God. Like it's too simple. I'm going to try to learn all of the Masechtas of Gemara first. I'm going to sit before I'll think that I can pray. But that's just not it. No matter where a person is, they can always pray. And he says a person should think in his heart, the person should think like this. And this is true for the person who's so far away. How much more so is it true for each and every one of us, no matter what level we think we are? This is so true. And the person should think, if I'm so far in my own eyes from Hashem because of my sins, he says that you got to understand that the person is the farthest away. Actually, the main full completion of the structure of prayer is a spiritual structure that encompasses all of the structure of Am Yisrael. So when we talk about prayer, we're not only talking about my prayer as an individual, but when I pray, I'm contributing to the structure of prayer as a whole for Am Yisrael, right? And so that he says, so the spiritual structure of prayer cannot be completed unless it includes the prayers of the lowest common denominator, the person that's the farthest away. As our sages taught us in the Gemara, in the Talmud, Kol tefillah she'en ba mitfilas poshei Yisrael ein tefillah. It says every prayer that doesn't include the prayers of the ones who are the sinners of Israel is not considered prayer. V'alfin and miktoras, and we learn this out from the incense offering. Sheya ba chelbana.
Is that during the whole year?
All the time, yeah. You have to have all of Am Yisrael involved in prayer. Even the people who maybe others might judge as being low lives and things like that, God forbid. But we learn it from the Torah because you know what? The Torah, the incense offering, had 11 spices, and one of them, it's called chelbana, galbana, it's called, and if you've ever smelled this, it's really not a nice smell. Have you ever smelled it, chelbana? Go check it out. If you haven't checked it, you can. All these things are available now. You can go into a Judaica store and they have the 11 Ketoret oils. You can check and smell what each one smells like. But the Ketoret altogether, everybody knows that the fragrance of the Ketoret could cause prophetic revelations, Ruach HaKodesh, that the fragrance of the 11 spices together. But the thing is that in the 11 spices, you needed that one spice called chelban, a really not pleasant smell, and that is not just coincidence as all of Torah. It's not just a as I say stam. It's not just a coincidence that Hashem said to bring these 11 spices and one of them smells lousy. No, it means something, and it teaches us specifically that every Jew and every person's prayer is absolutely, totally important to Hashem. And is necessary to complete the structure of prayer. So you have to be aware of that, be encouraged. Never ever follow in, never ever think that you can't pray, never ever think that you're so far away that Hashem wouldn't listen to your prayers. And we've noticed, if you've noticed also, in general, this is a truth in the world, that if something's just sweet or just pleasant without maybe a tiny little mixture of something unpleasant, it's kind of boring. You know, there's always there are wonderful foods that the taste of the food is because you burnt it a little bit. Right? It gives it an amazing flavor. Certain foods that you burn it just a little bit, and it has this depth of flavor that it adds to an amazing thing. So too with all of Am Yisrael, everybody's needed, every single person, whatever level they're on. So therefore, the person has to understand. And say to himself, therefore, if you might think you're the lowest of the low, God forbid, and so you think to yourself, I'm certainly one of the low lives of Am Yisrael, God forbid. So therefore, but it's just the opposite of what you think. You got to remind yourself, you know what? The entire completion of structure of prayer as a spiritual entity in Am Yisrael is actually made through me. Therefore, I need to really strengthen myself and encourage myself even more so to pray to Hashem and to trust Hashem's kindness. That He will hear and receive even my prayer, me, this low life that maybe isn't keeping any Torah whatsoever. So you got to realize that's not. It's not like some religions that teach if you're not following the religion, then God turns away from you and you're damned for eternal damnation. That's not Torah. That's not a Torah concept. It's never been. And if you ever thought it was, please be disavowed of that false notion, because it is absolutely false. There's always hope. Hashem is always ready to receive somebody to try to come back to Him. So we see again that even with the incense offering, that you can't have an incense offering without this disgusting smelling fragrance that's part of it. So we see that chelabana, this yucky fragrance, is actually the completion of the incense offering of chmochein hula inyan tefillah. And this is how we each have to realize and feel about my prayer. What's it worth me? Why should I pray? God doesn't need my prayers. No. Even the prayers of the lowest person, mitzarefet the tefillas Yisrael, joins together to make the structure of the prayer of the nation of Israel. Lo heshlemus l'tefillah. Without that person, without every single Jew's prayer, there's not a complete structure of prayer. And he says in the book that called Sichos Aran, Rebbe Nachman's Conversations, in chapter 183, he says, Le'inyan b'nei hanurim, he says something regarding the youth. Sha'al pirov mival belo sam b'tfila sam machmas shelo zachul iskadesh karui b'kedusha zivug. People who are not married. So it can be hard for people who are going through all sorts of craziness sometimes because they're not married and they haven't sanctified. They're not being sanctified, especially teenagers and young men in their 20s, women too. But more and more men have this. I think this craziness when they haven't come into the sanctity of proper intimacy, of holy intimacy. And so therefore, because they haven't had this settling, this reinforcing of their holiness through the proper intimacy, the relationship with a true partner, with their completion, so they find it very difficult to pray. And Rebbe Nachman cautioned about this many times. Don't let this get in the way. Even if it's hard for you, even if you feel like you're far away, even if you don't feel like you're living within a environment of sanctity. He says, don't let this get to you at all. Mada hava hava. He says, whatever happened. V'shas hatfila tzrichen lishkoach hakol legamrei ulizgaber lizpala b'simcha karaui tamid. He says, whatever you did up till this moment, let it go. Forget about it, and just pray. And just don't think that the Yetzer Hara is going to try to get to you and make you think that your prayer is not worthy, and it's absolutely false. Stand there and pray with joy, like we're supposed to do it all the time. Pray, and let yourself believe that your prayer is so precious, because it truly is. Do not be fooled. Your prayer is absolutely precious, no matter where you are, no matter what you've been. Your prayer is precious. Believe in that and pray, no matter what, always. So, no matter what, just trust in Hashem. In the end, if you keep going, just like we talked about with the dripping water on the stone, you'll make an impression. In the end, you'll see that if you keep praying, you will come to be victorious in the war against the evil inclination, in the war against our animal nature, and you'll be able to sanctify yourself properly. Va'amar, Rebbe Nachman continued, Sha'al zeh, Hishtapchut Abba Binyamin al Tfilah Sishte Tzmucha Misasi. And Rebbe Nachman says a perush, an explanation for a famous Gemara, that it says that Abba Binyamin was pained that his prayer should always be next to his bed. And it's a strange language that the Gemara uses there, and so the sages there say that it means that we should have prayer in the same place where a person is sleeping. But Rebbe Nachman says something. He says mita refers to mita hu lashon zivug. The bed refers to the place of intimacy. That he says this is what it means, that my prayer should be next to or connected to my intimacy, meaning to say, he says I should be able to pray even if it's hard for me, because many times people who are involved in having any type of sexuality can find that the sexuality itself can actually pull a person away from the strength of prayer. So we can ask Hashem, please may it be your will that even if I do have involved in having sexual intimacy, that it may be your will, first of all, that it should be holy, but also may it be your will that I should be able to strengthen myself in my prayer and not let the physicality drag me out of the ability to pray. That's what it means that it says that's next to my bed. V'lo yebalbel ha'inyan hazeh es tefilasi klal. That this physical aspect should not get in the way of the spiritual power that we have in prayer. Okay, I think that's I think that will do it for this time. Chodesh Tov, Misha Nichnasad, Rabbi B'Simcha, may we be zoche to the true light of Purim and to be removed from any klipas hamanamalek, which is the aspect of doubt, of any type of doubt. Whether does Hashem really listen to my prayer? Is Hashem really there for me all the time? Is Hashem really running all this crazy world ultimately for the good? That's the doubt that Purim has the ability to wash away. To Simchas Purim, to the Kedushas or Mordechai Esther, and to the ability to know Hashem's with us all the time, and through that will come to heartfelt, deep, true, powerful prayer. Kein Yiratzon.